To get an even better understanding of how the Aura Patch system works and the science behind it, we consulted with Dr. Joseph Unger, an expert in craniopathy and founder of Atrium Health Services in St. Louis, Missouri.
All healing philosophies talk about healing energy, that there is some energy that occurs that is ultimately responsible for healing. The ancient acupuncture, depending on China, Korea, or wherever, call it chi or ki. In yoga, they call it prana. In chiropractic, it's innate energy. In homeopathy, it's the vital force. And all disciplines have different names for this. Star Wars, it was the force. But the concept is all the same, that there's some mysterious energy that flows through the universe and that we as living beings accumulate this energy and are capable of life and healing. It would make sense to me that that energy has also a waveform, a vibration, and that anytime a waveform interacts with barriers, it will cause a resonance pattern. And so that theory, for example, was tested by a guy named Schumann, again, another German physicist. And Schumann hypothesized. He said, well, we know that there are cosmic radiations coming to us from the sun. And we know that there are certain limits or barriers with the Earth. One is the ionosphere, which is an ionically charged kind of sphere at the outer edges of the atmosphere. And then there's the surface of the planet. And that's measurable. And he said, okay, if we have these radiations coming in, and we know we can calculate this, and we know the distance between the ionosphere and the surface of the planet, what would be the resulting radiation or frequency? And it's called Schumann's frequencies. And so they went out, they theorized, well, it should be, I believe it's 6.7 hertz or cycles per second. And they went out and measured for this. And it was there. Nobody ever noticed it before. I don't know if Schumann's frequencies is the energy of chi or not, but if there is indeed this healing energy, when it enters, again, barriers, and my pet theory would revolve around what's called the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the energy production mechanisms in every cell of every living thing. And they're designed in a series of tubules, little tubes, and there's just multiple little tubes in there. And then they start emanating these resonance patterns, producing the energies that coordinate function and cause healing in the body. But if the body is sick for some reason, whatever that may be. Now, Kautsky, for example, theorized that if you impose external vibratory patterns, you can destroy or interfere with the body's own resonance mechanisms. So he became concerned about things that some people talk about today, radio waves and the amount of electromagnetic radiation from cell phones, etc., that he thought those would be a deterrent to health and that they could interfere with these patterns. So by any means, if we get sick, if a cell, an organ, or a system becomes energetically deficient, becomes physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually sick, it will not resonate the same, and therefore it cannot heal the same. It cannot produce those resonant vibrations, those signatures to coordinate function and to heal itself. If you don't have the self-healing capacity, then you can get stuck in sick and not able to recover. This is one of the beauties of the Aura patches. Dr. Hunt has identified some of the very exact frequencies needed that can be deficient under certain conditions and can then build them into the patch, and you wear predominantly on the left side to capture impregnate, if you will, to embed the chi or the ki or the innate force as it comes into the body with those specific vibrations that then feed energetically the sick cell or organ or tissue. Now, healing can occur. So I would postulate, have a hypothesis that for true healing to occur, for total healing to occur, there is a range, a whole range of frequencies that are essential to the optimum health of an individual. At the very foundation, as far as we can see so far, are the kinds of energetic frequencies that aura patches are delivering. Another piece of the research that I think is fascinating, just astounding. In the 1930s, there was a bacteriologist, and his passion was little bacteria. His name was Royal Rife. Dr. Rife was one of those kind of Renaissance guys. For example, one of the projects he undertook was engineered the fastest speedboat, ocean-going speedboat available at the time. Some guy said, I want this built. And so he designed and built the world's fastest speedboat, which, if I recall, it took something like 60 years for somebody to break his record, that it was that well designed. Well, one of the other things he had to do was to design a good microscope if he wanted to do bacteria work, and he needed the best. So he went off and studied optics and became a master optician and designed the world's most powerful light microscope. That was in the 1930s, and nobody's been able to build a better one yet. Now they've gone to electron microscopes, different story. But as far as light and lenses, it is still the best. At that time, in those days, one of the big problems was tuberculosis. And there was a lot of tuberculosis at that time. And Dr. Rife, I don't remember the circumstances why, but he had somebody build for him a cathode ray tube, which is basically a television tube. It emits electrons and in a beam, and then you can adjust, and he had this design so he could adjust the frequency of those electrons. Very fast, very slow, and that he could literally in very tiny increments determine exactly the frequency of emissions. And he theorized that if he could find the precise frequency of emission, it would destroy a bacteria or a virus. The videos are available. You can go look at them. And he set up this cathode ray tube. He found that frequency for tuberculosis. You can watch the tuberculosis bacillus sitting in the petri dish in the microscope. They turn on the beam directed at the microscope, and in 15 or 20 seconds, the cell wall breaks, the insides goo out, the cell dies. That's exactly what Dr. Hunt does, is that if a virus, a strain of virus, or a bacteria comes into being, either evolves or is multiplying enough to give people trouble, he can analyze for its energy signature, I believe is his description, which would tell you the vibratory pattern or insinuate the vibratory pattern that could be used to destroy that virus or bacteria or fungus. It seems that this range of vibratory patterns is extensive, and one itty bitty little wavelength of difference might do a totally different job for the body. And so Dr. Hunt is still finding combinations and patterns of frequencies that do certain jobs. So that the patches are designed for specific conditions.
The Aura Patch system is not an over-the-counter remedy. It can only be prescribed by a doctor, practitioner, or healthcare professional. For more information, please log on to www.aurapatches.com.